idea is like, look, I don't give a fuck about innovation. I just want control.
Yeah, and like there's specific goals that they have for that. Like instead of innovation or creativity or subjectivity, it's more towards efficiency, rationality, obedience. All these.
AngelLaCiencia.
Okay, Boomer. Okay, we have Mr. Boomer over here, and we're running it back for Gronk Village podcast. It's number 4 now, but I wanted to have you on because we've had, I've seen that you recently have had a lot of, output in terms of what's going on out and what's happening with first the COVID situation and, the perspective you have on China in relation to that, and also because of, your kind of alignment in terms of, the outburst that's happening in the US as well, with George Floyd and all these things. But, I wanted to get some background on you first. I know you've had you've delved into the corporate life. So you were working for one of the big 4?
Yeah.
Right. And what were you doing there?
Auditing, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
just grinding away, just calculating numbers, checking shit.
Yeah. And how did you feel about that?
Soul crushing.
Well, why did you get into that in the first place? What did you think? What was the initial reason you went into that, thinking that was a good opportunity? Because you did it quickly. You did it straight out of uni, right?
Straight out of high school. Man.
High school, yeah.
So, kind of just following the standard rat race, the trajectory, and just it seemed like a way to get ahead, make money. It fits in with the Asian stuff as well, Asian background, and like want a stable job. So I went into that.
What did you study?
Huh? What did I study?
Yeah.
In uni.
Yeah, in uni.
Commerce.
Yeah.
Commerce, and did auditing on the side, and then that's sort of falls my background to like sort of critique it and analyze it.
Isn't it weird that so many people get into accounting and the only thing that I hear from people who actually start working in a role that's related to accounting is that they fucking hate their lives?
Yeah.
I don't know one happy accountant.
It was very common during the job as well. It's like you complain and everyone's like, oh, no one likes it.
Yeah.
You just deal with it. And like, it's kind of like just giving up on it.
What's the end game for those people that are always just, not happy with their situation? Because from my perspective, if you can't see yourself doing something for the next 10 years or even the 5-year mark, like, why do you keep doing it?
Stability, good money, sort of, almost like sort of prestige, the corporate, sort of like Friday night drinks, wearing a suit. And then also, the main thing is stability. Like, those kind of people who can deal with it, they're like, want a very stable life, 9 to 5. There's no difficulty in the work. They know what they're going to do. Just checking stuff. Like, every job's essentially the same.
The way that the job was sold to you, did you expect what you got when you actually got into the role?
Definitely not. I was in high school. I didn't even study business in high school, so I had no idea what it even was about.
What was it really? Like, what is accounting? Like, what do you do that's such of value that, you have to plug away at this job for X amount of hours?
Auditing. Accounting in itself is just like literally like having a book for all your transactions and stuff, right?
Yeah.
For a company. So auditing is the sort of looking back in the past financial year and just making sure all the transactions that the company did and all they put in their books was accurate, was correct.
Yeah. So that sounds pretty boring, eh?
Yeah. So
that wasn't what it was sold to you as.
Yeah, obviously the marketing is different. It's like, you can be this go-getter and all this shit.
Yeah. How do you go-get when you're calculating numbers, though?
I forget.
That's the problem, mate. What set you to kind of? I know that you're doing a PhD now, and why don't you explain what you're doing your PhD on?
It's interesting to talk about that because part of it is analyzing this audit culture in society overall.
Yeah.
Like to do with. So my PhD will be looking at China's social credit system that they're supposed to implement this year.
Yeah.
But probably will be postponed because of the coronavirus.
Mm.
But looking at the social, cultural, and economic dynamics behind China's social credit system.
Mm.
So part of it is the biggest part that is the most fleshed out is the financial aspects, so like credit scores, debt repayments, all this shit. And then there's like, in terms of audit culture, like how that permeates throughout society as well. Like all businesses are already with this metric numbers mentality of like, well, how are our numbers? Like how are the KPIs and all this shit, right?
Yeah.
Like how, then I'm interested in how social credit system would reinforce that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like unquestioned, deterministic, numbers first above everything.
Yeah. But how do you do that in terms of you're taking a person, you're taking an identity, and you're not really taking into consideration any of the financial circumstances around this identity? How do you link that to financial, credit worthiness?
Yeah, they're taking the past repayments and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Past, like how much money that they earned, if they get payroll information, if they get lending information, how much money have they borrowed, have they paid back in time?
Yeah.
Like have they done these like day loans and shit where it's like crazy interest rates?
Yeah.
And whether they're kind of vulnerable. So you're like aggregating all these numbers into like a score that then represents the person. So it's more the subjectivity of an individual, their identity becomes replaced somewhat with their numbers.
Okay. So that's a bit different to what I thought it was, because I thought they monitored, your social media. They kind of looked at
aspect of it.
Yeah. They gave you a 360 view of this person by actually like monitoring them all the time to be able to more accurately score them whether they're creditworthy or not. But how do they take social media into account? How do they take all that stuff into account?
That is still, so that's, if I'm trying to understand it, maybe there's the financial stuff, which is more happening all over the world, even in Australia, US, everywhere, like credit scores. And then what China is kind of leading the way in is trying to get a score for trustworthiness. So like, whether they've literally jaywalked, like you've heard those stories, right?
Yeah.
You jaywalk, if you've had an argument on the street, if they've got cameras, they can their cameras are really powerful.
So they're looking at the character of a person, whether they would be likely to break a rule, and that will be negatively impacting their social score. But from an entrepreneurial sense, don't you think that people who break the rules actually make more money? Are they not someone who is that risk adverse? Like all the entrepreneurs are saying, yeah, I fucking risked it all to make it to where I am now.
Yeah, I guess it's a subjective valuation of what is risky and what is like, following the rules.
Yeah.
But the Chinese Communist Party, they're renowned for having absolute power.
Yeah.
And sort of the last say on what is right and what is wrong.
So it's more of a mechanism to try and control you rather than, So even just like, don't break any laws, and we're going to enforce it not only with the, implication that you might go to jail, but also with the implication that you might not be able to borrow money.
Borrow money, literally like get on a bus, go to another province. China. These things have already happened.
Oh, really?
The story is coming out.
Do you have any like stories that like stand out as to like how someone's been, maybe fucked?
I don't have any personal stuff.
Yeah.
It's just stuff I've read on sort of online.
Well, what's one that you've read?
Yeah. Not really like anything narratively, in terms of a narrative like quite strong, but just someone who's like, like you said, entrepreneurial, borrowed a lot of money, wasn't able to pay it back, then kind of got trapped in this like whole like the circle of like getting a worse score, and then weren't able to work out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but from what I can remember, it's just like they couldn't take a train to go visit their parents and shit. Can't like if you put the recycling in the wrong fucking bin.
Yeah.
In some cities, they've already tracked that stuff. So
recycling in the wrong bin.
Yeah, so they have cameras when you're putting trash in the wrong. If you put trash in the wrong bin, then they'll take away from the school.
Someone's surely not manually checking these things, are they?
They're not manually.
It's automated.
Yeah.
It's automated to the point where they can see what you're putting into the bin.
Yeah, and they're trusting the system, if it's AI, if it's machine learning or whatever, to then calculate that score straight away.
Oh shit! Okay.
So that's one way of thinking about it as well. Like machine vision is a popular term that's coming out.
Yeah.
About how, like, say we upload like a picture online, like we see it as this image, but how a computer sees it is just 100, all these binary numbers, right? And that's another like universe that we don't really understand, but is already making its impact on us through like, okay, you upload like a violent picture or something, or like a sexual, like a explicit picture. Yeah. AI is being trained very well, like Facebook and all that shit, right? To already like pick it up straight away faster than you can even like, before you even see it as like on the through your pupils. Yeah. Like the machine has already used its algorithm to monitor that.
But how do you take that and determine, I guess, is there like historical evidence that people who upload sexually explicit images are less creditworthy, or is this more of a mechanism for China to be like, okay, I don't want you to do that, so I'm just going to make it harder for you to get a loan?
Yeah, it's a way for them to try to trustworthiness. It's just enforce what they think is good behavior. So like be a good citizen, pay all your debts, respect like civil laws, obviously criminal laws and all this stuff.
Well, from your research, have you seen how, like, what are the negative implications of this? From my perspective, it's like you're stymieing creativity, right? You're kind of preventing people from taking risks and in turn innovation. You take risks to make, progression. So is this something that China's thinking about? Like, okay, like, yeah, you can fucking, stop all this shit and make them adhere to your rules, but in exchange, you're not going to see as much growth in innovative sectors.
Yeah, that's I guess the fundamental critique of this. It's like you're taking away some parts of humanity, creativity, subjectivity, like ability to just express yourself sort of in irrational ways. Yeah. It's more like a rationalizing, computational sort of thought, feeding people into this way of adhering to the world.
Because they can only then work within the finite constraints that the Chinese government has built then, right? If you only want them to adhere to these rules, then you don't know. There's nothing that brilliantly comes out. It's how fucking Darwinism works, right? You get a mutation, and that mutation somehow does well. If you don't have that in the Chinese system, I don't understand so their idea is like, look, I don't give a fuck about innovation. I just want control.
Yeah, and like there's specific goals that they have for that. Like instead of innovation or creativity or subjectivity, it's more towards efficiency, rationality, obedience, all these sort of like. Yeah.
So when people say, like, because I've seen you have a pretty negative view towards people who critique China.
Simplistic critiques of China.
Don't you get, like, I don't understand where your frustration lies if, it seems pretty reasonable to say China's kind of fucked for doing this. It's dystopian.
It is, but my problem is sometimes it's this like othering of China. It's like, oh, they're doing this crazy shit. We're not going to be like that. Like there's a very moralistic Anglo-white perspective.
Yeah.
But research has already shown like the US has led the way with credit scores. They like implemented this in the 80s with neoliberal sort of policies to like actually have those rating agencies like S&P and all that shit, right? They're like fundamentally they work for the investment banks. That's how like the GFC became as intense as it was. So like it's this sort of like moralistic sort of like condescending view of China. Like they go about it pretty like crudely, like, and the government is really like obviously quite strong, but also really brash, and like they're just like, fuck, we'll just implement the system because we're the only party and we can move things forward.
Yeah,
that is scary, but it's a sign as to how technology is further shaping our societies, right?
Yeah.
So it would be interesting for me to see the cultural differences first.
Yeah.
Like they're embracing these things because they have a very like technological deterministic mindset. Like, we got to like technology is inevitable. We got to be the first.
Yeah.
That stems from their history of being destroyed in terms of industrialization by the West, right?
Yeah.
That's how they lost. They were them and India. They were like in terms of like population size, economy size, larger than America and Europe until the industrialization period.
Yeah.
Industrial revolution.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a tangent. I'm just saying, yes, it's fine to critique China. Obviously, I'm doing it, but don't just say, "Oh, look, they're so bad. Like they're evil people. Like they have this social credit system, and it's like a dystopia. It's like 1984. It's actually really different to 1984.
Yeah.
It's not central management, but it's like we talked about. It's these little tiny algorithms that are very decentralized in the way they operate, right?
Yeah.
It's like every little post, every little action that is captured on the camera is analyzed.
But there's still people making those algorithms.
Yeah, people.
And those people are skewed towards giving control to China, which is
just maintaining their society, strengthening their society in their view.
Which is subjective. But
obviously.
I guess the ultimate question is like, would you want to live in a society like that? Do you want to live in China with this social credit scoring system? Would that let you live the way that you live now, that you want to live?
So a tough question, but I would say it's not as obviously a negative answer, man. Like honestly, it's not as like if you have an understanding of these things, like okay, look, this is the way that this works, and they understand how strong technology is and how much you can affect society, right?
Yeah.
And if they can manage it well to face existential issues like climate change or social dysfunction like in the US, or even in Australia where it's like, oh man, maybe we should fucking use electric cars even though we like invented the technology.
Yeah.
So good. It's a good question, man, and I'm glad you're asking them directly. Yeah. So yeah, like I lived there for a while last year for a semester. Fuck man, like bro, the construction was like 24/7. So like there was apartment in our student block there. They were working all night, and like even for us they stopped at least at like 1 a.m. and like started again at 6 a.m. And it's so loud that it's like digging into the ground, right? Anyway, that's their mentality. It's like growth,
continual progression,
higher and higher, bigger and bigger at whatever cost.
I also understand that because, like you said, they got fucked by industrialization, by globalization. They were already behind, and then they started growing. And when that growth became too apparent to Western civilization, they started trying to stymie that by bringing all this political propaganda into it and say, no, you can't use those resources. You can't dig up shit from the ground. You can't build as rapidly for these reasons, which were actually quite subjective and political and obviously quite biased. But I also understand the perspective from people in Western civilizations where we see this and, okay, there are some of us who think to it and go, I personally wouldn't want to live in a society like that. And why should China and its citizens have to live in this way as well? So it comes down to it comes down to the fact that you wouldn't want to live in that society, So why would you want to propagate that? You should stand for something that you think is right?
Yeah. At the same time, like, we're outsiders, right? We can't tell. We don't want to live in that. A big part of that is because we've grown up in a different world, right? Who's to say, like, they went from, like, Maoist poverty, like, within 40 years, they became the second biggest economy. There's the quickest economic development in all of history.
Yeah.
So, like, in that perspective, like, they're doing so much better, right? So they're happy with the way that it's going, and a lot of it, to maintain the order, is maintaining the legitimacy of the Communist Party, the ruling party, right?
Yeah.
As long as things go well for them, in that view, yes, it's a very narrow-minded from our Western freedom sort of like individualistic perspective. But for them, it's like for the greater good, you know, individual sacrifice for the greater good. Like, it's a fundamental cultural difference.
No, I understand that as well. But even during the Mao Revolution, like 100 million people were killed because, you know, they might have different political views. They might have different ideas of how it's murdered. Like, life to the Western civilization seems like it's above all, right? It's the most sacred of things.
That's very subjective opinion.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think that's the case? Because, you know, even how like we've approached the COVID situation in Australia anyway, even before it reached 100 deaths, we were on lockdown.
Yeah, so did Korea, so did China. Like, China was slow in it because the outbreak was there, right? And they have their own little big political issues in terms of like trying to quell dissent, even from a doctor who's like trying to say there's a new fucking virus. Yeah. But Japan, Korea, Taiwan, it just shows like, I think it shows.
But those aren't communist nations.
Yeah, they're not communist, but I think it's not that useful to think of China as communist anymore. Like,
okay.
It's communist in name, but a lot of political science is already sort of saying, look, it's an empty sort of label. What they really are is just nationalistic, and it's very sort of Chinese Confucian culturally, and they're just trying to maintain the order of their society. Communism, fundamentally, if you think about it, is just for the working class, right?
Yeah.
Fuck the bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
But they have the like unbelievable.
They have rich people. Yeah.
Income inequality.
That's true.
So they've sort of abandoned. That's what a lot of scholars have said. They've pretty much abandoned communism.
Yeah.
But they have 70 years history as a party, so they want to keep the name.
Yeah.
But
the reputation. Okay.
But it's for the Chinese dream. China dream is the new thing Xi Jinping's talking.
What is the Chinese dream? To be the ruling nation of the world? To be the new superpower?
Yeah, fundamentally, but it's in a different way to how we think of superpowers in terms of in the past, Britain and America, right?
Yeah.
It's not about external colonization and sort of dominance of literally extermination of peoples and enforcing your own government on them, right?
Yeah.
Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, all these colonial countries, right? They're much more self-interested. And so it's just about strengthening further, developing more, and technology is the new area for the 21st century for them.
Yeah.
That's how they want to do it.
So when you went over there, what were the Chinese people like, would you say? What were the biggest differences that you saw? Because, you know, obviously we see Chinese people come to Australia. It's a large migrant portion.
Yeah.
And obviously I have my own subjective views on what they're like, but you going over there and how they're living in their own society would kind of reveal a bit more about why they're like the way they are, or, you know, what are the characteristics that you believe, you know, set us apart.
So cultural differences?
Cultural differences, down to the level of personality, you know, what are the things that you think are quite different between Chinese people and the rest of Western civilization?
The fundamental difference, I think, East and West, you could say is individualism versus like socialism and like community values. So like, everything is oriented around the family, and it still is for their lives. Like family is the number one thing, whether it's immediate family, grandparents, right? That's a big part. They all live in the same house.
Yeah.
Or distant relatives, like that's the biggest occasion. Like Chinese New Year's and these things. It's like everyone gets together. You sort of just make do because you're like blood and you're sort of like in it together.
Yeah.
So there's a very strong values stemming from Confucianism, right?
Yeah.
So that's fundamental. Like Confucianism, which has influenced Japan and Korea and East Asia in general, strongly.
Wait, how does Confucianism, which is Buddhism, relate to family?
It's not Buddhism.
It's not Buddhism. I thought Confucius was a Buddhist. No.
It's sort of, they melded into one. But China thinks, in terms of ancient China, you can think of it as being guided by three major religions, like Taoism, Yin Yang, Confucianism, which is about respecting elders and respecting your family, and also quite patriarchal. So respecting the man of the house, man of the lineage as well, right? Also, and then Buddhism, which is about life is suffering, trying to being ascetic, like get rid of desires, and sort of monks are this ultimate, and obviously the Buddha, reach nirvana and shit. So those are the religions that shaped China and a big part of Japan. Maybe Korea is different, I'm not as sure. So I'm just saying, like, that is very different to the Western philosophical or religious history. Yeah. So Western civilization very much about Christianity, about having this one God. Obviously, Buddhism has many gods. Confucianism doesn't have a god. It's just Confucius, who was a man who was not very similar to Jesus, but they don't consider him a god. Yeah. And Taoism, which is obviously against all gods in general, against any sort of ego, really. Yeah. So, but the fundamental, if you want to simplify it, it's just like, individualism versus communism, socialism, these sort of communal values. Yeah. So it's evident